Dear students, welcome to the next lecture in signals and systems. So, in the last class, we discussed the convolution problem of, you can say, discrete time system. So, we'll try to solve some more problems based on the discrete time convolution, and then we'll move on to the next topic. Okay. So the question is, the signals are given as xn and hn both are same, and it is equal to this unit step, you can say, signal. So the question is that compute the convolution of these signals. Okay, so we'll try to solve this problem. Now the convolution, you already know that it is having this kind of form, xn convolution hn, and when you write it in summation form, then it will be k equals to minus infinity up to infinity xk h of n minus k, which is equal to summation k equals to minus infinity to infinity uk and u of n minus k. So this is just putting the expressions of x and n h in the given convolution, you can say, expression. Okay, now based on these unit step signals, accordingly you will have to modify these limits on the convolution sum. Okay, so the limits will be modified as from 0 to n. Okay, because this is starting from 0, that is why the lower limit will become 0, and the signals are defined up to this point n. Okay, because uk will be 0 for k less than 0, and the upper limit will be k equals to n, because this un minus k will be 0 for k greater than n. Okay, so accordingly these limits will be modified. This will be simply then equal to n plus n un, or it can be written in terms of this ramp signal as well. Okay, so this will be your, you can say, final answer. One more similar type of problem. Now in this problem, let's suppose that xn is given as 0.8 raised to the power n un, and hn is given as 0.4 raised to the power n un. Okay, so the question is same, that you have to evaluate the convolution for it. So you will start in the similar manner, that is yn equals to xn convolution hn, and which is nothing but write the mathematical expression of the discrete time convolution. So this will be this. Okay, now in the next step you just have to put the expressions for xk and hn minus k. So it will be 0.8 raised to the power k uk and 0.4 raised to the power n minus k u of n minus k. Okay, so similar to the last problem, the limits now will have to be modified. So the limits will be modified as the same as that we had done in the last problem, from 0 to n it will be. So 0.8 raised to the power k, 0.4 raised to the power n minus k. Now you just have to simplify this. This becomes a simple problem of mathematics. Okay, so whatever knowledge of mathematics you have, you just can apply, and you try to obtain the expression on your own. I am giving the solution for it. So simple progression type problem actually it is converted into. So you can just simplify it. So you will get this kind of expression: 0.4 raised to the power n, 2 raised to the power n plus 1 minus 1, and when you simplify it to one more further step, then you will get something like this expression. Okay, so this will be the final answer for this problem. Now we will quickly discuss the properties of the convolution sum, or you can say the properties of the discrete time convolution, you can also say it. So most of these properties are same as that we had already discussed for the convolution integral, but still we will just go through it quickly. So first one will be the commutative property. Okay, so the convolution sum possesses this property of commutativeness. So that means xn convolution hn is the same as hn convolution xn. Okay, next can be the distributive property. So according to this distributive property, xn convolution with h1n, which is in convolution with h2n, it is same as having the convolution of xn convolution h1n, which is in convolution with h2n. Okay, so this is the property of you can say distributive property. The third one is the associative property. Okay, so according to this associative property, we can write xn convolution h1n plus h2n which is in convolution with this xn equals to h1n convolution xn and h2n. Or I think there is some correction. So this property, actually this is not associative, rather it will be the distributive property. Okay, and here you will have the plus sign here. Okay, and in the previous property, this will not be distributive, rather this will be the associative property. Okay, so you can do this correction. This will be associative property. Okay, so now we will move further. So these were the commutative, associative and distributive properties of the convolution sum. The next property is the shifting property. Okay, so according to this shifting property, if xn convolution with hn is giving you yn, and then if there is a shift, let's suppose in the impulse response signal, that is hn, it will be hn minus n naught, then this will be, or if there is a shift in xn, that is xn minus n naught, or there is a, you can say, shift in both signals. So if this is the case, then the output will come as yn minus n naught. So whatever be the shifting in the input signals, any one of the input signals, the same shifting will be in the output signal. And let's suppose that if there is shifting in both the signals, that is xn as well as hn, so the output will come as, if there is shifting of n1 in xn signal and n2 in hn signal, then the total shifting will be this n1 plus n2. Okay, so it can be written as yn minus n1 minus n2. And the next property is the convolution with an impulse. Okay, so the convolution of a signal xn with a unit impulse function results in the signal itself. So if xn convoluted with this delta n, it becomes xn, and the last property can be the width property. Okay, so again this is the same as that we had already studied for the continuous time convolution. Okay, so the location of the first non-zero sequence value, that is the left edge of the discrete convolution of two sequences, it equals the sum of the locations of the first non-zero sequence values of the two sequences. Okay, so that means if the left edge of the resultant signal or the output signal will be equal to the left edge of the x signal and left edge of the h signal. That's what we had studied in the continuous time convolution. Okay, so similarly the right edge will be equal to the right edge signals. Okay, so similarly the width of the non-zero extent of the continuous convolution of two signals was the sum of the widths of non-zero extents of two signals. So similar case in the discrete time convolution also, that the number of samples in the non-zero extent of a discrete convolution of two sequences is one less than the number of one less than the sum of the number of the samples in the non-zero extents of two sequences. That means that let's suppose that this nx and you can say nh. Okay, so these represents the number of samples in the non-zero extents of these sequences x and h respectively. So you can just write down here that this represents the number of samples in the non-zero extent of signal xn, and similarly this nh represents the number of samples in the non-zero extents of hn. Okay, so the number of samples in the non-zero extent of the sequence yn, that means ny, will be equal to the nx plus nh minus 1. So this becomes the width property of the discrete time convolution. Now next we are going to discuss some of the LTI system properties. We have already I think discussed the system properties in the first unit, but here we will mainly focus on the relationship between the LTI system properties and the impulse response. So accordingly we'll discuss those property just by emphasizing or having more relation with the impulse response. That is, we will just explain those properties in terms of the impulse response. Okay, so you know that the impulse response completely characterizes the input output behavior of an LTI system. Okay, so and that is why the properties of the system such as memory, stability, causality, they are related to the system's impulse response. So one by one we will just discuss all these properties. Okay, so first of all let us take the property of memory. So LTI systems with and without memory. Okay, so you know the difference between a memory less system and a system with memory. So the present output of a memory less LTI system depends only on the present input. Okay, so now if I just write down the expression of convolution but with a slight modification, and I am able to do this modification because of the property of commutativeness which the convolution possesses. So we have already discussed just previously that the convolution is having the property of commutativeness, that is the convolution sum is commutative. So I can write hn convolution xn. Okay, so if I write it in this way, the summation will be from minus infinity to infinity x of n minus k. Okay, so if you try to just expand this expression, you will have something like this. So you can just continue in the similar fashion, that is h2 xn minus 2 and so on. So this summation expression can be expanded in this form. Now you notice one thing, that for this system yn to be memoryless, this yn must depend only on xn. Okay, so now what does this mean? that it cannot depend on this term xn minus k for k not equal to 0. Okay, so if this value of k is not equal to 0, then this yn cannot depend on xn minus k. That means if you look at this expression, then except this term, that is h0 xn, all the other terms in this equation must be 0. So this implies one more thing, that hk equals to 0 for k not equal to 0. Now this is the condition for this LTI system to be memoryless. Okay, so we are talking now in terms of the impulse response. Okay, so in this situation the convolution sum reduces to yn equals to k times xn, and where this k is nothing but h0. Okay, so this was for the discrete time case. Okay, so here we see that if a discrete time LTI system has an impulse response hn that is not identically 0 for n not equal to 0, then that will mean that the system has memory. Okay, so we can have similar expression for the continuous time LTI systems as well, and that is without and with memory. So I can just write down here that a continuous time LTI system is memoryless if ht equals to 0 for t not equal to 0. Okay, and such a system will have the form of output as yt equals to k times xt, where k is same as h0. Okay, now let us discuss the causality property. Okay, so now we will move on to the second property, that is causality for LTI systems. So again, you know that the output of a causal system depends only on the present and past values of the input to the system. This already we had discussed in very detail in the first unit. Okay, now I will write again the expression of output, that is, this is the convolution sum hk n minus k. Okay, so I can write it as in the expanded form. Let's suppose h of minus 2 x of n plus 2 plus h of minus 1 x of n plus 1 plus h0 xn plus h1 xn minus 1 plus h2 xn minus 2, and so on. Now we see that the past and the present values of the input, that is xn, xn minus 1, xn minus 2, they are associated with this k equals to k is greater than equal to 0 term, you can say. Okay, and whereas the future values of the input, that is this xn plus 1, you can see here this xn plus 1, xn plus 2, they are associated with the you can say term k is less than 0. So you already see here that this this actually is k is less than 0 here, whereas these values you can see they are associated with k greater than 0. Okay, isn't it? So now in order for yn to depend only on the past and the present values, that means for the system to be causal, you know that it must depend on the present and past values, and for this system to depend only on the past and the present values of the input, what we require is that this hk equals to 0 for k less than 0. Okay, isn't it? So these terms should not be present here because these are future values of input. So this system must not depend on the future values, it should only depend on the past and the present values of the input, and that will mean that hk equals to 0 for k less than 0. So for a discrete time causal LTI system, you can just write it down that for a discrete time causal LTI system, this hn equals to 0 for n less than 0. Okay, so these this can be the condition for a discrete time system, LTI system, to be causal. Okay, and the convolution, that is the discrete time convolution, it can then take this form: k equals to 0 to infinity hk x of n minus k. Okay, so this can be its form. And now similarly for continuous time LTI system, for continuous time LTI system, so this system is causal. For continuous time LTI system to be causal, ht equals to 0 for t less than 0. Okay, so this is the condition for the LTI system to be causal system. Now the next property will be the stability for LTI systems. Okay, so you know that the system is stable if every bounded input produces a bounded output. Okay, now we will have to derive some conditions on this impulse response hn that should guarantee the stability of the system by bounding the convolution sum. Okay, so let us just start. So yn equals to hn convolution xn, you take the magnitude part. Okay, so summation k equals to minus infinity to infinity hk x of n minus k, and it should be either less than equal to this summation k equals to minus infinity to infinity hk and x of n minus k. Okay, now let us assume that this input is bounded input. So if we just assume that this input is a bounded input, that means xn having this magnitude less than infinity. Okay, this is some, you can say, some assume some positive value. Okay, so then if this is bounded, then x of n minus k will also be less than equal to some value. Okay, so Now from here it will just follow that this yn, it must be then less than equal to bx summation k equals to minus infinity to infinity and hk. Okay, so this is just from this equation we are writing. Okay, so from this equation what you conclude that if the impulse response is absolutely summable, that is this hk is absolutely summable, uh, that means you can write it as, okay, I will write on the next page that if the summation of the impulse response, that is this summation, is less than equal to infinity, that is it is absolutely summable, then yn is bounded in magnitude and hence the system is stable. Okay, so this is the condition for stability, you can say, for LTI system in terms of the impulse response. Now in the analogous way you can also obtain the relation for the continuous time case. Okay, so for the continuous time case the system is stable. So we should, for the continuous time system, so a system is will be stable if the impulse response is absolutely integrable. That means that summation minus infinity to infinity h tau d tau, so its magnitude should be less than infinity. So if this condition follows, then this will mean that the system is stable. Okay, so this is for continuous time case and this is for discrete time case. Now come to the last of the properties, that is invertibility for LTI systems. Okay, so let us just draw the block diagram representation of systems. So this is, let us suppose this is HIT, this is XT and this is XT. Okay, so this was for the continuous time case. Similarly you can also draw it for discrete time case. Okay, so you know that this is a continuous time LTI system which is having some impulse response ht. Now this system is invertible only if an inverse system exists that when connected in series with the original system produces an output equal to the input to the first system. So this is the meaning of invertibility. So we have also discussed this property in the first unit. So I have written the same signal here and here because this is the condition for the invertible system, that the output should be equal to the input which is applied at the first stage. So we can have a relation between this HT and HIT. Okay, so let us just try to derive that. Now the impulse response of the cascade connection which is being shown in the figure is the convolution of HT and HIT. Okay, so what we require is that XT convolution HT, and it is again in a convolution with HT. So this convolution must be equal to XT, isn't it? Because the output is XT, the output is the same as the input. Now this requirement or this relation, so if you just remember one of the property uh, of the convolution, that the convolution with impulse, so you remember that whenever a signal is being convoluted with an impulse signal, this same signal you obtain. So just by using that property, what you get here, that this ht convolution with the HIT will get you delta t. Okay, so and similarly for discrete time case also, for discrete time LTI systems, Hn convolution with HIN will give you delta n. Okay, so these were the, you can say, relation between the LTI system properties and the impulse response. So with this much we stop today. Thank you very much.